How hard are we voting here? Like, do you mean something different? Communism. You like the weekend? Thank a union for that. Thank some communists for that, okay? I've noticed a sickening trend. Men who themselves are against or support others who are against Medicare for all, affordable housing, voting rights, freedom of speech, equal rights overall are either sex traffickers, pedos, rapists, into child pornography, or other some sexual predator. I need someone smarter to... Yeah, I have seen this too. I just love puzzles is right. The real Dark General Commander Jay Jones, Virginia Attorney General Jay Jones, the OG liberal driller, releases a statement on the Supreme Court of Virginia striking down 10D1R congressional map. Today, the Supreme Court of Virginia has chosen to put politics over the rule of law by issuing a ruling that overturns the April 21st special election on redistricting. This decision silences the voice of millions of Virginians who cast their ballots in every corner of the Commonwealth, and it fuels the growing fears across our nation about the state of our democracy. That's my goat. Jay Jones is the dark woke general, okay? If you guys remember, he was saying in his private correspondence some crazy things. And then guess what? Guess what? The people of Virginia were like, that's my guy, okay? My team is carefully reviewing this unprecedented order, and we are evaluating every legal pathway forward to defend the will of the people and protect the integrity of Virginia's elections. Arrest them. Jay, arrest these charlatans who are playing partisan politics while they wear those robes, and you will be reincarnated as a lotus flower. Jay Jones, do it. Do what must be done, Jay. Do what must be done. Okay? Impeach these judges. Arrest them. Do what must be done, Jay. That's my goat. Comrade Jones will seize victory once again. That's the really only choice. I checked the VA Constitution and their Supreme Court rules on their own impeachments. Anyway, can the ruling be appealed? No, I don't think so. It's so surreal watching you address a photo of a dude I went to middle school with, but it's amazing too. I mean, listen, I'm a fan, okay? I love Jay Jones. You guys know this. Yeah. The only way that it can get appealed is obviously the Supreme Court of the United States, and we all know that's not going to happen. Okay, not this Supreme Court. Maybe they can ignore it though, and then see where it goes from that point on. I mean, obviously the administration will try to take strong authoritarian action against that sort of thing, but the reality of the matter is sometimes you have to fight these battles. Okay.
That really kicked off this whole redistricting battle last summer.
It's a huge loss for Democrats who spent tens of millions of dollars persuading Virginia voters to approve the new map. And it comes one day after Tennessee's governor signed into law a new Republican gerrymander that breaks up the only majority black district in the state. Louisiana, Alabama, and South Carolina may soon pass their own last-minute maps. So here's where that leaves the redistricting wars nationwide right now. Republicans have targeted 14 extra seats. Democrats could pick up 6. Theoretically, it would be an 8-seat GOP advantage. But here's an important caveat. Just because a seat is redrawn by Republicans or even Democrats doesn't mean it automatically goes that way, especially in a year like this one.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I think that's also bullshit. Okay. No, like there is a much higher likelihood. There's a much higher likelihood. That's the reason why they're stopping it. Like the idea that we can just like go to, I don't know, like a fucking R+20 district, for example, and like flip it with enough momentum is, I think, silly. And also, there's already a lot of initiatives that are set in place, set in motion to stop that from happening anyway. Okay? We're talking about turnout in midterms, but even then, like, let's say you boost turnout. Okay, what happens when they overturn those results? When will people go, okay, enough is enough?
I'm joined by a terrific group of reporters here at the table. The president did not waste much time crowing about this Supreme Court decision in Virginia. He said, huge win for the Republican Party.
Huge win for the Republican Party in America and Virginia. Wow. Wow, he's not even shying away.
America in Virginia. The Virginia Supreme Court has just struck down the Democrats' horrible gerrymander, Make America Great Again. If you talk to Democrats privately, they don't disagree with what the president just said. It is a big loss. Here's one senior Democratic official who I was texting with as I saw this report told me, not good. A major upset in our bid to win the House back, though we still can prevail. But the hill just got a little steeper, Isaac.
Yeah, another Democratic operative who's working on House races this year said to me, look, 1.6 million people cast their vote and decided a very, very specific thing. And 4 unelected judges just said, piss off. I mean, that is the feeling among Democrats now. A real stinging defeat here. They thought that they would be getting this advantage in a bunch of these House districts in Virginia. Now they won't be. And there is not a lot of time left to get seats anywhere else, even as Republican-led states are moving, as you point out in that map, to try to get a couple more seats for them. This is, it is up to the people to vote, but this is very much a case of the politicians choosing the voters before the voters choose the politicians.
Which, again, we should underscore, everybody is doing.
Yep,
and
for sure.
It started the mid-decade push to do this, started at the White House with President Trump. It's interesting, just with this Virginia decision, James Blair, the president's top political advisor right now, was sitting where you're sitting, Nia, last week or the week before, and he was really leaning into the notion that Virginia would strike this down.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. I've been texting with folks, and they're saying, and these are folks at the D-Trip saying, yes, this is a setback, but they feel like, you know, they were trying to get 4 additional seats. Probably 2 of those they probably can get, particular if it's a wave.
Because it could be a bad year for Republicans.
It could be a bad year, but listen, this is a big blow. Hakeem Jeffries, I basically wrote a column that was like, this was great for Hakeem Jeffries, because he was all in on it. $38 million spent from a group affiliated with him. Obama was in on this, and now this is a big defeat. And one of the reasons why Virginia was so important as well was Democrats were anticipating this Supreme Court decision, which is also going to have massive effects. So they felt like they've got this sort of tranche of 4 seats, and now, of course, that's gone. Again, they're still hopeful that they can maybe get 1 or 2 of these seats, but it has been a big waste of money. You know, they'll have to pivot maybe to 2028 because this was a procedural decision. It looks like the voters, at least by a small margin, wanted these maps, but they're going to have to wait at least 2 years and to get these maps.
So we're reporting what Democrats are telling us privately. Here's the public messaging in light of this defeat in Virginia. Just for example, Gavin Newsom, no vote in Tennessee, no vote in Florida, no vote in Missouri, North Carolina, Texas. This is the key. Virginia's voter-approved maps thrown out. MAGA has rigged the system.
I mean, another way to win the election is to motivate people to come out and vote. That's exactly what that message is trying to do here. I would just note, like, when it comes to Congress itself and how it functions, the impact that this is going to have could be really extreme, because what you're starting to see is that middling, those districts that are hard fought, those make good members. Those make members who make our job really interesting, because they sometimes will cross the aisle and vote with the other party because they feel like that's what they need to do to stay competitive. The fewer of those districts you have, the less and less likely.
Bro, what the fuck? Do they not see that this is in the backdrop of a vote that took place that is currently overturned? Am I being too crazy about this? Maybe I am. Maybe they know something I don't. But it does shock me that without skipping a beat, CNN is like, oh, did the Supreme Court of Virginia overturn the votes of millions of Virginians? Well, you know the solution to that. It's to go out and vote harder. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? What are we talking about? Like, how hard? How hard are we voting here? Like, do you mean something different? Like, what are we talking about here? You should vote, but then they pack it R+20. It would take an act of God to win there. That's what I mean. Yeah. Malcolm X holding ballot by any votes necessary. Exactly. No, this is famous. This is the famous photo. This is the famous photo of Malcolm X doing what must be done, which is, by any votes necessary, voting extra hard. Okay? This is what it is. This is what's going on. CNN is basically going the route of VA voters hate this one Supreme Court life hack, soy face. I like that the solution to the Supreme Court overturning the democratic wishes of the majority is to just vote harder. So what then? What happens when they still overturn those wishes as well? If it even happens, it's probably not going to. That's the entire purpose of redistricting. Is specifically so that it's virtually impossible for your voice to be heard, right? Like that's the whole goal here. And in an effort to combat against the national battle for redistricting taking place, because Donald Trump is unbelievably unpopular and knows he's going to lose the fucking House of Representatives, he's urged Texas, the Texas Republican Party to redistrict in Texas to secure additional Republican votes by way of cheating. So then the Democrats were like, two can play that game, except we are Democrats, so we're going to play that game in the most above board, legally sound way possible, which is by referendum. And we're not even going to do that permanently. We're just going to do that until the next census takes place. Because remember, Democrats love putting these limitations on themselves ahead of time. They do everything above board, as they did in the state of Virginia, and they still were like, no. The wishes of the majority are totally secondary.
It is that people work together, that people cross the aisle, that it matters that the margins are close. If everybody's in lockstep, that becomes a huge question of Congress's ability to do anything.
And also it feels like what we are getting into here is redistricting used to be something that happened once every 10 years. And now it seems like we're headed to at least the next bunch of years where it might be happening every 2 years in a bunch of states.
Yeah.
And that changes all the way this goes.
Yeah, I just want to underscore what you're saying, because it's so important that you say extreme. I say bad.
You're acting like they're being sincere, my man. Their job is normalizing any illegal and unconventional action and subverting the attention from how this shouldn't be possible. Yeah. No, it's totally ridiculous. It's always when they go low, we go high. Always. That's the Democratic method. It's always the Democratic method. When they go low, we go high, and they just keep going lower and lower. And they keep slicing our fucking ankles every step of the goddamn way. They keep dunking on us. What are we doing?
Just bad. This is bad for America to have already have so few of those sort of moderate, either Democrats or Republicans in Congress. And it's not even just that it makes your job interesting. It also helps make compromise, which is kind of the way it's supposed to work. Let's just kind of take a step back for 1 second. And our friends over at the hotline at the National Journal put into perspective not just Virginia, but what we've seen, which is why it makes it so bad for Democrats on redistricting over the last 10 days. Calais, the Supreme Court decision significantly weakened the Voting Rights Act, opening the door for more redraws. Then Tennessee Republicans passed the 9-0 congressional map. Louisiana is now on track to eliminate at least one Democratic seat. And then, of course, we just saw.
I mean, this is such a sad state of affairs, but this is probably correct. Three-way parlay. Democrats win the popular vote 56-44 in the midterms, end up with a 6-seat majority in the House, and then 4 of them die within 6 months. Or Democrats win the popular vote 56% to 44 in the midterms and end up with like maybe one majority seat in the House, given all the redistricting initiatives, and then 4 of them die within 6 months, giving the majority back to the Republicans somehow. Because like right now we're looking at a new calculation in the Senate, right? You got Abdul, you got Plattner. Abdul in Michigan and Plattner in Maine. Except there's one guy who has been caucusing with the Republicans in the Senate quite a bit. John Fetterman. So like, even when you lose, even when you win, you still lose. Welcome to being a fucking Democrat, dude. And then people yell at me when I say this can't go on. Okay? I don't want fascism to win in this fucking country, but it's winning so goddamn hard. It's doing victory laps. Okay? They're pissing on the carcass of American democracy. Please, can we fucking fight back against it? And the Democrats are too busy yelling at me, the fucking Twitch streamer, rather than doing something about the goddamn fascists. Yeah, if it's 51-49, Fetterman with 100% switch sides to give the majority of the reps again. Yes.
What happened in Virginia. And just to sort of continue to pick up on your point, I want to listen to the state Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey from your home state of South Carolina.
There's going to be another Democratic president at some point. I hope that's not the case, but it's going to happen. And it is important, I think, that there's somebody from South Carolina can make a call and somebody at the White House will answer it.
Make sure the map accomplishes the goal. If at the end of the day we create a map that gives Democrats more competitive opportunity, what have you gained?
Like, this is not even about representing the wishes of the public at this point. It's like pure partisan politics. And they've already redistricted so fucking hard. Okay? They've already redistricted so hard that they might end up carving out seats that are more competitive. Like, that's where we're at. Okay? That's where we're at currently in American democracy. It's so funny. They're like, we've disenfranchised voters too hard. So much so that we might enfranchise voters by accident. We can't do that. That's an interesting point from the South Carolina guy. If you actually care about your state, it's good to have someone in the governing coalition, no matter what party's in charge, but they don't really care about their state. No, of course not.
Translation, there's trepidation in South Carolina to take advantage of the Supreme Court ruling like other Southern.
Again, they're not worried. Guys, you need to understand. They've already successfully disenfranchised voters so hard in South Carolina that they're now saying we might be disenfranchising so badly that it ends up creating competitive districts where Democratic wishes could be heard. Like they are possibly going to be victims of their own success. That's the calculation here. It's incredible. Sentiment.
Yeah, listen, because what you would probably have in South Carolina is no black representation, right? You would have seven Republicans. Clyburn would.
Can you explain the South Carolina thing more? I don't get it. South Carolina is already fucking redistricted into oblivion. A big part of the process is chopping up these districts in a way where the reliable Democratic Party voters, more often than not black voters, right? Because that's the only vehicle for change that they have to have their voices be heard, where they're like black voters all around the country and especially in the South are making a calculated decision to vote for the less racist party. Okay? That's it. Everybody knows it. That's the whole point, right? The party that has at the very least expended social and political capital in the past, at this point, many decades ago, to actually allow black people to vote, for example, right? So they still remember that, and they're making this decision where it's like, well, both parties are pretty fucking racist, but, you know, I'm going to go vote for the party that isn't, like, actively saying we need to go to prison and we need to be killed, okay? But for the Republicans, that's too much of a threat. So what they're doing is trying to roll back the clock on civil rights in this country, and they have successfully done so, right, by way of lawfare, by way of the court system, and certainly through the process of redistricting, where they take heavily populated areas where there's a lot of black voter density, and they chop them up and they slam them into other districts where they will be overpowered by the reliable Republican votes. And that's what they're doing. That's what redistricting is. True, although as a black person, it's all over the country, even where we sometimes choose to live is dependent on whether it's less racist than the other town next to it. No, absolutely. And basically, there's only so many ways that you can chop these districts up. And at some point, you have to make the calculation, because there's too many black people from the perspective of the Republican Party, where are you going to chop it up in a way where you have like a bunch of plus 10 R districts? Or are you going to chop up these districts even further where you maybe have some R plus, like, because currently, let's say you have a bunch of safe, reliable Republican districts where you have successfully disenfranchised the black vote. Okay? But that means you have to have one big black district, right? That is going to be reliably voting Democrat. I already gave you the reasons as to why the black vote goes in the Democratic Party's direction. So now we're moving on from that. Now I'm giving you the second point. So there's always one district that's like putting up Assad numbers for the Democrats, right? In a lot of these Republican states, in a lot of these red states, that's because they have to cordon off all the black votes into one district and then chop up the rest of the black voters in the South into reliably Republican districts. Now, what the South Carolina gerrymander is seemingly trying to do is to move some of these districts around in an effort to, instead of having like, a bunch of plus 10 R districts and then one plus 40 blue district, they are trying to chop it up in a way where they can have only plus 4, plus 5 Republican districts. This creates a unique problem for them. If they don't, racist joke, dude? Wait, what do you mean? What's the racist joke? What are you talking about? People don't realize quite how racially polarized the South is. South Carolina isn't even the worst, but why South Carolina is a Trump plus 46 and a Trump plus 8 state? Yeah. So basically, then why not defend it on the basis of Republican pop versus Dem pop? Otherwise, it sounds like identity politics. Brother, because there were previously rules in the rule books to stop it on the basis of black voter disenfranchisement, specifically because it was done initially and still to this day to disenfranchise black voters. It might hurt people's feelings to think of this as idpol, okay? But that's literally what the Republicans are doing, okay? It is identity politics when the Republicans engage in anti-black politics. But because that's the overwhelming, domineering attitude that people have, anti-blackness being a core value in American politics in general, people don't see that as identity politics. They only see the retort to that as identity politics. A similar concept exists in even the gaming sphere. Maybe I'll give you an analogy that you can understand. It's not politics if there is there's a white guy that's the main character doing a bunch of political shit. It's only political if there's a black woman, right? That's what gamers are tuned into, because the norm, the default, is a white guy. So if you actually don't have a default white guy and you have a black woman or something as the main character, all of a sudden it becomes political. It's like, whoa, what is this? Call of Duty didn't used to be political. Why are you making Call of Duty political by putting a black woman? That's identity politics. No, it's still identity politics. If the default position is a white guy, that's still identity politics. Is white identity politics, but we just see that as apolitical. We see that as non-political. You get it? Robert Reich has a better explanation. He explains it in 30 seconds. Here.
Now, here are 16 black dots and 12 white squares. If districts were not gerrymandered, they might look like this. And 3 out of 4 would have black dot majorities. But after gerrymandering, 3 out of 4 have white square majorities.
Yeah. So now they're trying to game it out. You see how there's the one super majority black dot district here? Okay. South Carolina has a problem. They're trying to parse this up in a way. They're trying to piece up the one black majority district into all of these other districts, but they simply don't have enough votes. Okay. That's their worry. Where they're like, okay, we want to eradicate the last black dot district that we have, and cordon it off in a way where it just perishes in an effort to disenfranchise the voters there and their needs. But that creates a unique problem where all of a sudden the margins are far too narrow for every other district. That's the reason why the South Carolina politicians are worried about potentially redistricting the state, because they've already done such a good job of disenfranchising the black vote that if they disenfranchise it further, it might end up making more competitive districts. This is the same in Florida. Okay, it's the same as South Carolina. That's the only thing stopping them from doing this.
Be not in Congress. He's got the 6th district. So yeah, this is a pendulum swing, right? And the idea is that, every action often has an equal and opposite reaction. And are we going to get into the situation where, as you said, every 2 years, there is some different map? And it sows, I think, distrust and disengagement among voters, right? Particularly in some of these states where it isn't even the voters that are making the decision.
Yeah, the problem is the Republicans have already racism maxed, okay? And if they try to racism max a little bit, they end up fucking up the min-maxing and ironically create a voting system where they might lose seats. That's their fear.
It is elected leaders of one party. And so this, I think, has set off a real arms race where we could see a House that doesn't really represent America.
I think we're already there, but